We'll begin the Planning Committee meeting of Akron City Council. Roll call, please.
Fusco.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Connor. Aye. Boyes.
Aye.
Hannah.
Aye.
All committee members are present.
Good, good. I'd like to entertain a motion. We accept the minutes of the last meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it. With that, we'll go ahead and leap into the new list of legislation and bypass the old list of legislation, assuming that there's no questions or comments. And I would like to request that the first item be read in by our clerk, Sarah Biviano, which is also known as item number 3.
Item number 3 is an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct a K-8 elementary and middle school at 2126 13th Street Southwest, Akron, Ohio 44314, and declaring an emergency.
Refer and advertise.
Item number 4 is an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct a gas station convenience store at 786 Britton Road, Akron, Ohio 44305, and declaring an emergency.
Refer and advertise.
Item number 5 is an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct an oversized garage at 1239 Country Club Road, Akron, Ohio 44313, and declaring an emergency.
Refer and advertise.
Item number 6 is an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to retain a projecting sign over the right-of-way at 195 South Main Street, Akron, Ohio 44308, and declaring an emergency.
Refer and advertise.
Item number 7 is an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct an oversized garage at 1432 1436 Fowler Avenue, Akron, Ohio 44314, and declaring an emergency.
Refer and advertise.
Item number 8 is an ordinance authorizing a conditional use to rebuild a Taco Bell restaurant at 414 East Exchange Street, Akron, Ohio 44304, and declaring an emergency.
Refer and advertise.
Item number 9 is an ordinance authorizing the Director of the Department of Planning and Urban Development or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts for transportation planning services in order to carry out the intent and purpose of programs under the Federal Consolidated Planning Grant for the calendar year ending December 31st, 2026, and in order to further the Akron Metropolitan Area Transportation Studies AMAT's goals and objectives of maintaining a cooperative, continuous, and comprehensive framework for making transportation investment decisions in the Akron metropolitan area and declaring an emergency.
Yes, thank you. Welcome.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Very good.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Okay, so I am Heather Davis-Riedel, and I'm with AMATS. As a reminder, we are the federally designated metropolitan planning organization for the Akron area, funded primarily through Federal Highway Administration funds. As the Akron area MPO, AMATS serves all of Summit and Portage counties and parts of Wayne County. The City of Akron acts as AMATS fiscal agent. So this legislation is a renewal that allows the planning director and AMATS to enter into contracts for calendar year 2026. There's no cost to the city. This is 100% federally funded. Specifically, this legislation will allow AMATS to hire a firm to conduct our pavement management program, collecting pavement conditions in the AMATS region over a 2-year span. Additionally, AMATS plans to award 2 Connecting Communities planning grants in 2026. That's it. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much. Thanks
You're
for coming down. Is there any questions or comments in reference to the proposed ordinance about the Federal Consolidated Planning Grant for calendar year 2026? Questions or comments? Yes, Tina Boyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question isn't about this necessarily, but you mentioned the Connected Communities grants. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So Akron just finished one, and it was their second one. It's a program we've been doing for 15 years. Every time we have a funding round, we award a planning grant to a community, and we ultimately hire the consultant. So it's a study of a specific area to marry land use and transportation and try to promote more active transportation.
If I may.
Yes.
Are you able to share where the 2 additional ones are happening?
Oh, so Akron received one in the first funding round, which was 2010, and it was jointly with Metro, and it was the downtown connectivity study, I believe. So we were looking at ways to make movement throughout downtown Akron easier and safer for pedestrians and cyclists. The most recent one was Summit Lake. We did a Summit Lake planning grant. So we looked at Lakeshore Boulevard. I'm trying to remember some of the roadways, but all around Summit Lake in order to make it safer for the residents there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Is there a rush on this consent
Nope.
agenda? We could pass it with suspension of the rules, whatever.
My note says consent agenda,
Consent
whatever
agenda's
that
okay.
means.
No problem whatsoever. In case anyone would come up with questions, they could do that. They'll have time before it's voted on.
Okay.
So, cool.
That sounds great.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Recommendation?
Move for consent.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? The ayes have it. Item number 10 was withdrawn. Item number 11?
Item number 11 is an ordinance authorizing the
you.
disposition of a portion of city-owned property, Summit County parcel number 6764372, to FF Reserve LLC, doing business as Fleet Fast, in order to expand its operations and to reduce the cost to the city and taxpayers in maintaining vacant lots, determining said property is not needed for public use and declaring an emergency.
Director?
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Fleet Fast was nationally recognized on the cover of Fleet Maintenance magazine in August of 2022 with a story about the tenacity and drive of Raj Basran, the president and owner of Fleet Fast, and his history in the neighborhood. Mr. Basran has grown his family's first-generation family business from a small auto and truck body shop to a growing, successful, and still family-owned business offering fast, high-quality vehicle damage repair services to fleet owners and professionals in the Northeast Ohio community. Mr. Basran grew up very near to where Fleet Fast stands. His childhood home was actually right next to what is now, or what was, the corner collision shop, which his father started in the 70s shortly after emigrating from Punjab, India with his wife. While his geographical location hasn't changed much since the start of his life, the business has evolved significantly and is positioned to do so again. They built out their location at 1535 Eagle Street between 2019 and 2021 with commercial vehicle repair services and added fully servicing electrical delivery fleet vehicles to their business portfolio with great success. The new facility is already in need of expansion to add additional service bays and will result in parking constraints during construction. Mr. Basran is acquiring this parcel across the street from the existing building with the intention of adding a retail parts facility in the coming years, including an e-commerce component and additional parking.
Very good, thank you. Anything about the ordinance here, just that?
No, so this would be for us, we would be selling him the property, and he will be purchasing it at the typical cost of a city-owned parcel, with the total revenue being $111,750.
Gotcha. Questions or comments from anyone? No one? Anyone beyond council? Committee? Is consent agenda okay?
Yes, thank you very much.
Is there a recommendation for consent? Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Again, the ayes have it.
Thank you.
With that, we'll now move on to item number 12.
Item number 12 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into contracts without the formality of publicly advertising for bids with Advanced Coatings and Maintenance Solutions, LLC, for construction services pursuant to the city's housing rehabilitation program and declaring an emergency.
Yes, Mr. Lash.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of council. This is our next installment on the Housing and Community Services grant from the Housing and Urban Development. I have Mr. Doug Taylor that will give more explanation.
Doug Taylor.
Hi. This ordinance is to add an additional contract to our bidding list. This contractor had done work with Summit County and I reviewed the work, felt that he does good work, so would like to give him a probationary contract for 1 year, $600,000 max to bid on projects in our lead abatement programs, roofing programs, and our Lead Safe Ohio programs.
Interesting. So can you dive a little deeper in terms of how this would work?
Okay. We have a closed pool of contractors that we approve. They put in applications, meet our qualifications. We go out, review their work, and we keep that pool of contractors. There's approximately 15 contractors on our bidding list now. This would probably make number 16. And what we do is we rotate the bids around. 3 contractors bid on each project, and this would allow them to bid on the projects.
So, and how does the $600,000 enter into this? It's
Well,
all or
this is a blanket contract that would cover them for 1 year period. Within the contract's written, if they're only eligible to receive the money once they win a bid and complete the work satisfactory.
Okay. And so assuming that they have the capacity, they could do possibly $600,000 worth of work
Possibly.
in 26.
In 26, correct.
Correct. Good.
Okay. Most of the contractors that we have that have been with us for a while, they get a 2-year, $1 million contract that we run through for them. Currently, most of them are in the middle of a 2-year contract. You'd be seeing more of these coming in. But right now, this is just one that wanted to be added to our list.
In essence, yeah, like a 1-year deal, see how it goes and go from there.
Right. If he's
Gotcha.
find out that he's a good contractor, we'll carry him on longer.
Good. Very good. Further questions or comments from anyone? Mr. Hanna.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You say you have 15 contractors, right, that you
Correct.
presently contract with. How do new contractors get involved?
Well, they would need to submit an application. First, they contact me. I'd send them a packet that would show what we require. They would be required to be on the SAMS list through the federal government, have a unique employee identification number, which is issued by them, carry the insurance requirements that we have, show that they have done decent work, and then once we've reviewed that, then we write up the contract as such and then allow them to start bidding on projects.
One more follow-up question. How long do you keep the same contractors? Because I've heard from my residents in my ward that some of the contractors, they don't do work that should be passed by anybody. It's really, and then they have conflicts with the contractors coming into their homes.
Okay. One, we're not very much, there are a few occasions that does happen. That is the abnormal, not the normal. Most of the contractors do good quality work. We insist on good quality work. Number of contractors I have cut out of the program because they haven't done good quality work. I'd say there's about 9 that I've cut out over the last 15 years that do not do satisfactory work. If a homeowner has a problem, they can always contact us. We stand behind the work maybe more than the contractors do. I have one right now that the contractor has shut down his business and no longer in business, retired. He's older. And so we have a little bit of problem with the leaking roof. We make them whole under the warranties that they're given for the projects. So we stand by most of the contractors. Have some been with us 25 years. Some have been here maybe 30 years, just because they continue to do decent work and continue to keep up with what we're asking for. So I'd be surprised if you have any constituents that aren't happy, have them call our office, and we'll be happy to look at what their issues are.
If I could, Mr. Counselor, if I could add to that, we have rehab specs, and we have Doug who actually manages the rehab specs. These are trained and qualified inspectors that go out and inspect this work. The contractors that we have in our program have been fully vetted. These are qualified contractors. So I want to make sure that the record is made clear that our division has quality contractors, and some of the jobs or even residents who may have issues, those are few and far between. So it's not something that's widespread.
Good. Further questions or comments? So I'm curious about this piece of it and refresh our memory, because I would assume that we voted on it last year. The other 15 contractors out there, do we give them a ceiling like this?
Well, most of the contractors have been with us any time, and we will go ahead and do a 2-year, 1-year contract. So you haven't seen, normally up until the change of the administration, we didn't bring these contractors and contracts to council. This has been something new that's been brought in that we've started doing. So you haven't seen a lot of them coming through. You did see ASIC come through here recently. He was a renew on his because he'd overexpended his funds that we had on his contract. So that was one that had actually come back through to be recertified. Most of them their contracts are going to run out in 2026. So you'll probably start seeing more of them coming through in 2026.
Is that how it's going to be broken out, though, in terms of saying, targeting and saying, okay, X contractor will get, this is your max, this is your max, this is your max, or?
Correct. Yeah, we figure that, some contractors are a little more, have a bigger crew, can do more work. So we like to make sure that they get the amounts there, but everybody gets a fair, so everybody gets the $1 million possible contract, and then we stay within that blanket contract. And then each job is done into an individual agreement that we have for each individual job on top of the contract that they have for us.
Yeah, that makes sense. Good, good. Now, I would assume that some of these are going to have to be inspected by the county building department?
Correct. When
Some yes, some no.
Yes, when the permits require, we require all the permits to be pulled.
Yeah.
Siding, roofing, electrical porches, whatever it is, we do
stuff.
require a permit.
Cool, that's great.
Absolutely.
Further questions or comments from anyone else? Anywhere? So, the big question, consent agenda, or
I'd like to move it through and get it into law, so the sooner I can get it approved, sooner I can get it into law for their approval.
okay. Does anyone have any idea in terms of a motion?
I'll make a motion for suspension of rules.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of suspension of the rules signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? The ayes have it. Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 13, Sarah Biviano.
Item number 13 is an ordinance approving the historic designation of the John Brown House at 514 Diagonal Road, Akron, Ohio, 44320 as a historic landmark and declaring an emergency.
Good afternoon. The John Brown House property encompasses approximately 2.28 acres and is located at the southwest corner of the intersection of Copley Road and Diagonal Road. The property contains the John Brown House, a smaller structure located immediately behind the house, a barn, and a small structure identified as a voting booth located southwest of the home. A stone wall runs along the east side of the property along Diagonal Road and a portion of the northern edge of the property along Copley Road. The original Greek Revival cottage that has become known as the John Brown House was built around 1830 along the Portage Path. Colonel Simon Perkins came to Akron as his father's agent in 1834 and soon started construction on the Perkins Mansion located across the street from the John Brown home. During construction of the Perkins Mansion, he, his wife, and their daughter lived in what is now named the John Brown House. When Colonel Simon Perkins ventured into sheep production around 1844, he entered into a partnership with John Brown. The arrangement required Perkins to furnish food and shelter for the sheep, while with Brown providing care by washing the sheep, shearing the wool, and preparing the products for market. In 1844, John Brown moved his family into the two-room cottage across from the Perkins Mansion. John Brown and his family lived in this home between 1844 to 1854. Throughout this time, Brown was an active abolitionist and a participant in the Underground Railroad. John Brown left Akron in 1854, and Brown infamously went on to lead attacks against the slavery forces of Kansas in 1856 and executed a raid on the Federal Arsenal in Harpers Ferry, Virginia, now West Virginia, in 1859, for which he was hanged for treason. The John Brown House remained in the Perkins family until 1942, when it was bequeathed to the Summit County Historical Society. 4 generations of the Perkins family lived here, and the house was also the original home to the Portage Country Club. The John Brown House is currently a museum operated by the Summit County Historical Society, and the Summit County Historical Society still owns the building and surrounding property and has applied for a City of Landmark designation. If designated, specified renovation activities to the property will require a certificate of appropriateness from the City of Akron Urban Design and Historic Preservation Commission. After review, the Urban Design and Historic Preservation Commission determined the property meets criteria outlined in the City of Akron landmark designation to define a historic landmark. The Urban Planning and Historic Preservation Commission, Planning Commission, and planning staff recommend approval of the designation.
Thank you. We have a special guest here today, Leanne Neff Hepner, the CEO and president of the Summit County Historical Society, is with us. So looking forward to hearing from her. And thank you for that description, Mr. Molhauser. And we're excited to hear from our president and CEO.
Thank you, Chair Fusco and committee members. I also brought with us one of our board vice chairs, Chaz Schreckenberger.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. As Leanne said, my name is Chaz Schreckenberger. I'm an architect in town, and I've worked on many historic buildings, including the John Brown House. And as she said, I am the vice chair of the board at Summit County Historical Society and also a member of the Properties Committee and former chair of that committee. It's one of these things that I'm not sure why this has not been designated a landmark in the past. It's about time we do that, and so we have full support of the board for this, and we appreciate your consideration.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So I wanted to share some information just to get everybody on board. I see many friends here that might have heard this information, but for those that are not familiar, the image that you see there was taken by Kenmore photographer B.F. Battles, and that's one of the earliest images that we have of the structure. So it was only 2 rooms and a loft when the Perkins family rented it and when John Brown moved into it. Now, as you heard, this structure was bequeathed to the Historical Society, and I just wanted to share with you, especially during this Akron 200 celebration, that the Historical Society was founded in 1924 by 7 members of the DAR, of the Cuyahoga Portage chapter. And they did that in preparations for Akron Centennial the next year of 1925. That year of 1925, Charles Perkins and his wife, May Adams, put in together a life trust. And for as long as they lived, they would be at that house, but upon their death, then everyone would know that John Brown lived there, and that house would be given to the Historical Society if they could maintain it. Unfortunately, he died that year. And she lived until 1942, and that's the time when we were able to accept the structure. And because of that relationship, then we were also able, through the city's and the community's help, to purchase that landscape around Akron and Summit County's founding home, the Perkinstone Mansion, which you see in these images, the larger being the Perkinstone Mansion, the smaller being the John Brown House. Now, what I also want to make sure that you're aware of is that Crossroads has many historical connections to it. And so, first of all, it was the western boundary of the United States at one point. The Portage Path that we know that goes between the Cuyahoga River and the Tuscarawas River. So where the Perkinstone Mansion was located, that was United States territory, and where the John Brown is located, that was actually considered Native American land. And so the very first Ohio historical marker ever placed in the state is on our property at the John Brown House to recognize the Portage Path, and I wanted to make sure you're aware of that. The other crossroads was the stagecoach route, which was very important to business structure and transportation in early Akron. This is also one of the earliest pictures of the structure that B.F. Battles had taken. It's hand-colored, and that stone fence is something that we are still taking care of today. To give you a little bit of background about John Brown, when he moved here, he was only 5 years old, and his family did come to be around other like-minded individuals that were abolitionists in Hudson, which was then Portage County, now Summit County. John Brown married his first wife, and they had 7 children. She died at their home in Pennsylvania, and so did the 7th child. And like every man at that time period, he needed somebody else to take care of his kids. So he found someone in a hurry, and that was the lady that was taking care of his house, Mary Ann Day. And so he married her, and together they had 13 children. So imagine that. Unfortunately, they had a lot of hardship. You think about challenges, disease, and things of that nature. Right before Perkins invited Brown to come to the Historical Society's location that we know today as the John Brown House, the family had lost 4 children within 2 weeks of dysentery. So he came to this hillside, which we call Mutton Hill, to work with Simon Perkins, who was the co-founder's son, but who eventually ended up being the leader forming our county in 1840. They had 1,300 to 1,500 Merino-Saxony sheep, which was the largest sheep farm east of the Mississippi River. And John Brown was really well known for his husbandry, and because of that, soon thereafter, they established an arrangement for a warehouse in Springfield, Massachusetts. So John Brown was driving back and forth on his cart and wagon, if you can imagine, between here and Springfield, Massachusetts during that time period between 1846 and 1854, but always a Brown family member living in that house to take care of the sheep. Now, I just want to, again, mention the work that we put into. So the city was very helpful and has supported the restoration work that we did. It was a 10-year project, $1.2 million put into the facility. That included the stone wall, and you can see here our stone mason. We also made it warm, safe, and dry, and we made it accessible to all, which I'll show you shortly. But what is more important that you understand, John Brown, is that he spent the majority of his growing up years in this area and what was known as a hotbed of abolitionism. And so the people in this community really formed John Brown. When you hear about him, you're only hearing about the last 3 years of his life, typically. 1856, when he goes to the territory of Kansas to defend his sons who were being threatened by Missouri ruffians, in which case he killed 5 pro-slavery leaders, potentially with the broadswords that were given to him by Lucius Bierce when he came through Akron on his way to Kansas, that were given to him. We gave him ammunition, guns, money, and Lucius Bierce also shipped a cannon to him. When John Brown decided that that wasn't enough and something more needed to happen, he went and gathered a group of people. He recruited individuals in Canada, and he actually wrote a new constitution for the United States, which would accept African American people as full citizens, not a ratio. And while he was there, he met Harriet Tubman, and she planned to be at his raid on Harper's Ferry. Unfortunately, she was hit by a weight as a small child, and she had periods where she would be sleeping for long times, and that happened to her when Harper's Ferry occurred. Now, when he took over Harper's Ferry, no shots were fired to gather the bridge. No shots were fired to take over the arsenal. He fed all of his hostages, and he wanted to put fear in those that were holding those enslaved individuals. And what's really important to understand here, when John Brown was born in 1800, there were 400,000 people enslaved. When John Brown led his raid, there were 4 million. So let that sink in. And he felt that his cause was just. He was the most well-known individual in 1859 after his raid in October. And here is a Harper's Weekly advertisement. He was injured in that raid. 3 of his sons actually died for the cause. And he was willing to also give his life. Lucius Bierce wanted to go and save him and support him and say that he was insane. If you're familiar with Peg's Foundation in Hudson, which focuses on mental health, she is a descendant of Brown, and they do have a long history of mental illness. But John Brown said he had more to give by dying than living, and individuals like Henry David Thoreau called him an angel of light. And he was hanged on December the 2nd, 1859, at which time Akron rang the church bells and closed their buildings and hung their flags low. Now, we've been involved in recognizing the John Brown House on the National Underground Railroad Network to Freedom through the National Park Service. So we are one of those sites, and our educational programs are as well. And with that, we work with many different agencies. You've already heard that because of the location of the property, this was the first home of the Portage Country Club, so we're changing gears a little bit here. This ties into our rubber industry at the John Brown House. So George Todd Perkins, the son of Colonel Perkins, who was the state senator that formed the county, was the second president of the B.F. Goodrich Company. So when the modern golf ball was invented, and it was with rubber bands in the center, they needed a place to hit that ball. And so they had a place, because this property was outside of the city limits of Akron, and that's where they decided to set up a golf course. And so the Haskell ball that you know and you could see on display at the Portage Country Club is there. If you see a photograph of that at the country club and you see F.A. Cyberling, somebody that's very familiar, and they're sitting on steps, I don't have it here, those steps are the John Brown House. This is an example of an artist sketch Chuck Ayers did, giving you an idea of where that golf course went. So you know today Saferstein Towers. There at one time was Auld Farm there that was owned by the Perkins. So before that, the golf course went east, and then it went west. So they needed a place to do a variety of things, and so that's the extra buildings that we have on our nomination. This is called the Birdhouse. It needs a paint job. It's not been on our list yet, but this is where they kept their clubs. So if you golf, you understand the birdies. We also wanted to highlight the work that we do in the community in reference to our property. So the Pomeroy Foundation actually granted us this marker from the Ohio Historical Society during COVID. So then this becomes a nationally, again, recognized structure online. And as we said, we wanted to make the house warm, safe, and dry as part of that project. So you can see we had to take the wood off of the house because in 1998, it was sprayed with a chemical. The person that sprayed it left town after they got paid. They never neutralized it, so it ruined the molecular structure of the boards. We had to work with a variety of different craftsmen in the historic preservation field, and they suggested this Cortison cedar that we have on there today. What's really awesome is each board is cut like the same boards that had been on the house. And right now it's kind of in its teenager stages. It will eventually turn gray and look very beautiful. As we mentioned, we also wanted to make it accessible to all. You saw Saferstein Towers in that one postcard. We wanted to bring people over, and it took 3 of us to get someone inside because we didn't have a ramp. Now we have a ramp. We also redid all of the electricity and the heating and air conditioning to make it appropriate for all individuals. We do a lot of programming. We take hikes up to the John Brown Monument. It was actually rededicated again this year thanks to the help with the City of Akron, the Akron Zoo, and Summit Metro Parks. And we do brochures that we share with the schools and many out-of-town visitors. And we're almost done, but really what we want to talk about is John Brown and what he represents. And so this is actually an old county voting booth that's on our property. We're hoping in future projects we'll be able to have it cleaned and painted. We want to have a scene around it that shows the progression of voting in our area. And so that'll be part of the property. It's still there now. It's on the cusp. But most specifically, we thank you for this opportunity to recognize the John Brown House as a local landmark and to also see his legacy of freedom and how important it is to Akron, Summit County, Ohio, and our nation. And I'll take questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was a great presentation. Certainly appreciate it. One key question that I have is if you could dive a little bit deeper. I think I kind of understand, but I want to fully understand the difference because this is like kind of lumped in together, the landmark and the historic designation piece. It's kind of, in this legislation, it's together. Mm-hmm. So heard bits and pieces of that in your presentation, but if you could maybe expound just a little bit on both of those.
Sure. So while we are recognized as a national site for the Underground Railroad, we are not recognized locally or nationally for this site. So this would be the first step in that designation, is if Akron, during its Akron 200th, would recognize this structure and its properties as a local landmark, then what it would do is allow us to then go to the next step in the future and potentially request for this property to be on the National Register of Historic Places. The reason it was not on that before in the past was because of the history of the house and how it had transitioned over time. But as generations have gone by, then the importance of not only John Brown, but also the Portage Country Club and the invention of the golf ball has added to that. And so today, this would be listed as a property, not specifically the importance of the structure, but those things that were important to our community that made a national impact.
Mm-hmm. Wow. It's amazing to think that it never occurred here locally. Isn't it? I mean, for me anyways, that's amazing that we never did that.
Well, I think that sometimes that we are looking at bigger projects and we assume that something was already done, and so we're very grateful for the work that the Historic Preservation Commission puts together, and so that's something that they've been looking at and recognizing structures that have not been recognized. Mm-hmm. We want to make sure are, because there are dollars that may be connected to such designations in the future.
Absolutely.
Especially at the national level.
Absolutely. And I'm just fascinated about this thing called the Birdhouse. I don't know how that ties into golf. I never... Bird.
So a birdie?
I know what it is. I know exactly. I just never experienced it while on a golf course, a bird. Just bad joke. Scratch that from the record, please. I'm going to open up the questions. If anyone have any comments, anyone has any questions? Anybody? Go ahead. Johnny Hanna.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for that excellent presentation. I think I met you not too long ago at the monument ceremony, and I was wondering, why did they separate the monument from the house? Why wasn't the monument, because it's located in the zoo now, and it's well hidden. You have to walk a half a mile from the zoo in order to get to that monument. Why was that
That's an excellent
separated?
question. Well, I would say that specifically it was because that's where the sheep were herded. And so that was, at that time that the monument was placed in 1910 by the German-American Alliance, the first group to give recognition to John Brown, that there were people living in houses near that property, and the Perkins had donated that land as a park to the city of Akron around the same time period. So they decided, they contacted Charles Perkins, who owned that piece that was not donated by George Todd Perkins, and he is the one that wanted to give the landscape. And for particular purposes, they probably thought it would have been visited more when it was a park. And what's really exciting is the Summit Metro Parks is working with the Akron Zoo, and they have exposed a walkway, which I think probably went from Charles Perkins' property over to the monument because it was so important to him. Because he said, as long as he lives or anyone in his family lives, they will know that John Brown lived here. It was very important to him. So that's a very good question. Thank you for asking it.
Bravo. Sam DeShazier?
Hello. I'm happy to hear your soliloquy on the Perkins information and also John Brown. And just like our chairman over here, Mr. Fusco, I've never experienced a birdie either. So I'm still kind of striving for that. But my question is, though, I know that some structures were actually built on site and they've been there forever.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some that were actually moved there. Could you tell us about those?
Yes. So that's another great question. So the John Brown structure was only 2 rooms and a loft when it was first built in 1830 and then added on to various times, mostly by the Akron Golf Club, which you know is the Portage Country Club today, and then later by Charles and May Adams Perkins when he retired after being the state engineer under Governor McKinley. There's also a barn on the property. We did have a study completed on that by Prospectus. We were hoping that it might tie into the time that John Brown lived there. We know that barns and farms are very important on the Underground Railroad as a location for individuals seeking freedom to have respite. Unfortunately, they say that that barn was probably 1870. There were a number of barns that were on the property, and so the ones that were there when John Brown was there are no longer there. The birdhouse was brought in by the golf club, and so it does fit in. It's been over 50 years, so it falls into the historical landscape. And then the voting booth, which is a retired voting booth from the county, has been there since the 1950s. It also falls over 50 years old, and so they all are encompassed in the time frame that we could now apply for designation. So typically, the National Register of Historic Places recognizes structures that are 50 years and older. And as we said, we would not come in as just one building, but as a campus, as Kurt has expressed to you. So that's why we've expressed all of the information that we can on those. I hope that answers your question.
Very cool. Further questions or comments? I'm not seeing any or hearing any. I'm going to recommend suspension of the rules with a favorable report because the time has come. It's passed. And I understand timing is everything. But yeah, let's get this done. So that's a recommendation. Is there a second out there?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, the ayes have it. Very good. Thank you so much for all you do, Vice Chair, and Leanne, thank you so much for everything you do. Appreciate it, and keep up the good work. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. On behalf of the Historical Society and also Elizabeth Corbin Murphy, who helped Chaz and I on this, I'd like to express our gratitude. And we're also leaving you postcards for our upcoming John Brown Fall lecture. It would not be appropriate if I didn't come and say that you're invited to something, so I hope to see you there. Thanks.
With that, this Planning Committee meeting of Akron City Council is adjourned.
Our next committee meeting will be the Public Service Committee, and it will begin at 2 o'clock. Those committee members are Kamer, McKittrick, DeShazier, Bolden, and Lombardo. Again, that's the Public Service Committee, and it will begin at 2 o'clock. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, it's 2 o'clock, and our next committee meeting of the day is the Public Service Committee. Those committee members are Kamer, McKittrick, DeShazier, Bolden, and Lombardo. We do not have council members McKittrick or Bolden with us today, but we do have a quorum whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and move forward and call the public service meeting to order. We do have minutes to approve from last week, if I could get that, please.
I move for acceptance of the minutes from the previous meeting.
Second. All in favor of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. So we do not have no legislation in front of us today, but we do have our service director, Chris Luddle, with us today, and a representative from, is it Ohio Edison? Usually I call it First Energy. So Amy Hopkins is here to introduce herself and just give us a little brief background of how she can help us council members. So I'll turn it over to you, Chris, first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Yes, Amy has been working with us for a while now, been very helpful. You know, unfortunately, sometimes I talk to her more than most of all you, especially during a storm. So those are the times where they still really step up. But Amy wanted to come in, and some of you she's met, some of you she hasn't, and she wanted to introduce herself, pass out some cards, her contact information. We all know probably some of the calls you receive about our street lighting program, our street lights. So she's going to kind of give an overview from the company and what they've been doing and how proactive they've been, especially in the last 6 months. You know, the time change is coming up this Sunday, so it will be darker. Some of you will drive to work in the dark and go home in the dark, so it's important to have those lights on. So I'm going to turn it over to Amy, and she's going to present for you.
Mr. Chairman, council members, thank you so much for having me. Again, my name is Amy Hopkins, and I am with First Energy. I do solely work in the Ohio Edison territory, and what that means is that Summit County is one of the counties that I do cover and support. I think I have worked with 3 of you out of the, so there are 3 I have not met, and I will make sure that you do have my cards. I guess one of the things I do understand is that streetlights are a big deal in our community. They are safety, they support all good things in safety. So I understand the severity of when your street light is out. And I think that we do have a good system where your residents are trained to go through the 311, or they do have the option to go through First Energy directly. Some of you also do cover your wards maybe quarterly, and you do look for street lights out and then send me a list, or you send it through 311. All of those things are good ways to do. None of them are wrong. I know that I did delve into the 311 system a little bit just to figure out, like, where do they go? How do they go to First Energy? And what happens is that the call center that 311 has, they actually will fax over lists. I'm not sure how often they will fax over the list, but they will fax a list over to our off-shift customer contact center. And from there, someone from the off shift will then get those streetlights reported. It is important as you're talking to your constituents that you remind them that we need a good address. The closest address to any streetlight is very helpful. A pole number is okay. I mean, it's not a necessity, and sometimes you will find that there aren't pole numbers, especially on the decorative posts. But the closest address will help our linemen. They're pretty smart about the areas that they cover, and they will know. So that's one thing I just want to kind of hone in. The other thing is that, you know, again, you're telling your constituents that they can go through 311, or we have firstenergycorp.com where they can report a streetlight online. And I can always send you a link to that if that would be helpful. Moving forward, we are waiting for the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio to approve a rate case for us, and I am looking for that to happen by the end of November. If that should happen, when it should happen, we will no longer have the ESIP program. They will do away with that special rate. That special rate is only in the Ohio Edison territory, not in any of the other First Energy territories. So what that means is that we will start to replace streetlights, the HPSs, the box lights. We will start to replace all of those with LED streetlights. When I have more information on how that will happen, when that will happen, I will pass it along to you all. But in the meantime, I think it's very important, and it's important to me that we all keep communicating, that you keep telling me when there is a problem, where the problem areas are, so I can be aware. I'm not aware without you all. It's impossible to be in every community, but I want to know, and I want to help. So it's important that we continue to keep the communication lines moving so I can react and get things done for you.
All right, thanks, Amy. I appreciate it. We'll see if there's any questions or anything. I see Councilman Lombardo. I'll start with him first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks. Hi, Amy. Nice to see you again. You mentioned address, and we all know that would be very helpful, obviously. But there are a lot of, well, I'll just speak for Ward 2, and let's just talk Cahaga Street. A lot of wooded area. I can say 7 lights down from the intersection of Euler and Cahaga. I mean, is that what you do? Because they're literally.
I'll take it, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and it seems to be working, whatever you are doing, however you are reporting them. So, yeah, I mean, good direction, and that is a good direction. It's the 6th light from the intersection, sure.
Right.
And I understand not every place has a good address, but most.
Okay. Because I know on firstenergycorp.com, when I've done that before, it'll say nearest intersection. And then if you have even if it's a house, is it the front, the back, or the side? Because maybe some houses are on the corner, so you could say it's on the side. Not necessarily this address at 123 Main Street. It's on the side where Johnson Street is or whatever, right? Okay, just want to make that clear. And then the last point with LED lighting, are you saying that, like going through any neighborhood here, that if this rate case passes, that if there's a certain light out, kind of one for one, they're going to just replace with LEDs?
I don't have the actual structure yet, but it will either be a replace upon failure situation, or they may do a whole blitz down a whole neighborhood and exchange them all out at once. But as soon as I know more, you will know.
Okay. All right. How do you feel about you're going down a street that, normally you see a light every other house, every third house, whatever, but it's a dark street that I'm thinking, they could use a light. How does that, I know it's just not easy. Oh, we'll just put a light up there. So you open to that?
Oh, yeah, no, definitely.
If it's a dark area?
The city of Akron's paying for that. So yes, we are definitely open to that. It's a matter of you calling in an order for a new light when you might work through Chris or through Joe Kunzler first. But ultimately, then once that order gets put in, then it goes to engineering, it gets assigned an engineer, they will contact you, they'll meet you out in the field, and we'll figure out where exactly you want that light.
Okay.
And then we'll have you sign off on it, the city.
Yeah.
And then we'll get it on the schedule.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
If I could, Council Chairman, those requests should go through the Engineering Bureau. So we get those. It's dark on this corner, it's dark here. If you could just submit those requests through engineering, and you can submit those through 311, you could submit them through our office, and then we will work with First Energy to talk about it end of light. Because sometimes, is it even in a good spot? There might need to be a pole there, right? So we'll look at that too, and that's even more. I mean, one thing I want to say in the last couple years, especially with the post lights in the neighborhoods, all the work we've done in water with the lead services, some of these have got their direct burial wire and they're easy to hit. Some of these direct burial wire aren't even, they're as big as an extension cord. There's no conduit. Contractors, and if the lights aren't on, they don't even know they hit it. Okay, then all of a sudden we got one light, we got 10 lights out. What's going on? So there is going to be some discussion if the ESIP rate goes away. You know, who's going to, right now we are responsible, the city of Akron or the contractor, if we can identify who did it. That's why we're trying to be so prescriptive with our right-of-way ordinance and getting permits, because you've probably seen the internet, the fiber optic companies coming in, and they could be a sub of a sub, right? And they're just boring away. And they're not happy with us because we're trying to be a little more restrictive on what they can and can't do in restoration, but it's easy to hit an electrical wire and not even know it. Now, when they hit our water line, it's pretty obvious. Water blows out of the ground, right? So we know right away, and Mrs. Jones has no water, so those get fixed right away. But the post lights, sometimes it's difficult, and all of a sudden we got a number of them out. This time of year, it's a little bit easier. It gets dark at 5 o'clock. When it gets dark at 9, they left at 3 or 4. You know, they don't even realize it happened. So they've been very helpful lately. They've been doing more borings and getting more of these lights on. Sir, I think there's some in your neighborhood on I think it's North Firestone or South Firestone. There's a group of them out, and I think unfortunately, that's what happened. So that's why we're working with them. We're going back after that contractor did that project to pay for the bill of that restoration and repair of that wire. So.
Yeah, Amy, good to know you. I know that just the nature of the lighting emitting diode, we've seen them be brighter in terms of lumens in our communities. It's still hard to convince some of the people that stand right up underneath it that it's not as bright. I'm not sure why that is, but how are you dealing with that in order to educate people who are in the general public?
So what we are doing is when it's time to do the LEDs, because that's where we're seeing a difference in the lumens. So when we do that, then we work with the city's engineering and we determine, you know, what kind of lumens are we looking for? What is the actual place that you want this? Is it on, can I use the example of Manchester Road? Or is it in an alleyway? I mean, what needs to be the brightest? So we will work with you on that, and we can change the lumen based on, it doesn't all have to match. But if it's too bright, or if we need to change the bulb over a little bit or move it in a certain direction, we can do that.
Or direct in the shade. We've had some customers where we've went to LED and they said their bedroom, now they got this light shining in the bedroom, so they put a different shade on. You don't get many, it's too bright. You get a lot of, it's not bright enough. So, but as you know, the old technology metal halide or high pressure sodium, you put the bulb in, you think, oh, that's a lot better than it was. They degrade, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. If you went out there 3 years, it's not as bright as it was. The nice thing about LED, when they replace it, it's going to be that bright in 10 years. That's the beauty of the LED light.
And with the old system, not only could you see it, you could hear it.
You could hear it, yeah. They hummed, yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilman?
Thank you. I just had one more. Does First Energy have a street lighting division? I think they used to. Or is it just, the line department, add it to the list for the line department? Is there a specific streetlight division?
We do have a small streetlight division within the Akron line shop.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman. Anyone else? I would like to, I know Amy said something about 311 fax a list over. I'd like to see if, Chris, if you can find out how often that is. I mean, I know there might be like, you know, maybe 1 week there's only 1 or 2 streetlights that might come in, but I'll tell you, I mean, I'd just like to find that out because there are some simple fixes, you know, and you folks go out and it's just a bulb that needs replaced. And I mean, sometimes these residents will get that fixed within 48 hours or something. It's just amazing. So I appreciate that. So yeah, if we can just look into that just to see if we're not sitting on a list for like 2 weeks or something, just to see if we can try to put it in their hands because I understand, I call it an underground fault wire. Those do take time. And I try to encourage the residents to be patient.
That's a very good question, Councilman, and I'll find out. So let's just take present time. If you or a resident called in Friday, when are they getting the fax? Is it Monday morning, right?
Yeah.
But if they called in today, are they getting it tomorrow morning? I'll get that information for you.
Or if, like, yeah, that's perfect. Or if
Yep.
they call in on a Monday morning, or we wait until Friday to
Yep.
get them? Because I'm telling you, some of those are simple.
Yep.
I use the word simple, so.
Yep.
The next thing you know, is First Energy's out there and they fix it, and it's just, everyone's happy. So
I'll get you that timing, sure.
appreciate that, so. All right, anything else? That's it, okay. Well, Amy, thank you for your help and work on this, and I appreciate you answering emails that I send you and everything like that. So with that, we're adjourned.
Our next committee meeting today will be the Budget and Finance Committee, and it will begin at 3 o'clock. Those committee members are Lombardo, Amobian, Fusco, Boyes, and Bolden. Again, that's the Budget and Finance Committee, and it will begin at 3 o'clock. Thank you.